Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. I'll be your host today for the Crypto Show. I'm just going to roll with it because it kind of worked last time. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at Neo, which is Neo Coin. And this one is an exciting one for me because I really do like it. I've been invested in them for a while now. And you'll notice the common trend with all the reviews that I do, they're always coins that I own. Or perhaps consider owning, because there are a few that I will plan to do soon that I've been told by my community that it's just something I can't overlook, right? Needless to say, when it comes to Neo, we're going to look at three things. Those three things are the social sentiment, the actual fundamental data. We're going to dive pretty deep into that, as well as go through my favorite part, which is the technical analysis, and that's just analyzing stock charts and kind of doing some fun stuff there to kind of look at resistance levels, support levels, as well as potential entry points based on, depending what kind of position you're holding, if you're going to be doing a long-term swing trade or perhaps even a day trade. So let's go ahead and look at those in greater detail. And of course, we'll wrap things up with my prediction on this currency. Again, do your own research, do your own due diligence, of course. Always want to do that when when you're actually investing in anything. But hopefully this video will help you kind of answer some of the questions that you don't already know the answer to. So without further ado, let's go and get right to it. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Neo. Now, Neo is an interesting currency. I think it's really awesome personally because it was founded originally as ant shares in China in 2014 and essentially rebranded as Neo in 2017. Now, it is a blockchain-based platform that supports its own cryptocurrency and enables the development of digital assets and smart contracts. So I really like the concept here. It does use a lot of different interoperability with other blockchains such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Zilliqa, among many others. But it's truly a unique currency. Okay, and I'll explain more as we go through here. First thing, why don't we take a quick look at the social sentiment of Neo. All right, now I always take a look at the month because it kind of tells us the big picture, what's going on, how it's been trending. And there hasn't been a ton of communication on Neo. It got kind of popular a few days ago, roughly about a week ago. But then as soon as Bitcoin kind of took a dump, the price of Neo has gotten much better. So I'm not surprised by this. I think it's healthy and good that the price is coming down, because then we have a chance to be able to invest with much less of a cost. So that's positive, but needless to say, the social aspect of this of Neo isn't super high. It's talked about, but not a lot. Because we go down here to top influencers. I mean, there's really only 8 top influencers, and none of them are exchanges. So not a big deal, but again, something to be aware of. And why don't we just take a quick look at a full year, for example, because they've been around for quite some time. Again, not a lot of social sentiment going on here. There is a lot of communication over the years, but nothing too crazy, right? So again, just something to be mindful of. I typically like to glance at the social components of a currency before I make a purchase, just to kind of get the idea of where the hype train's at, right? Because with more social dominance, then you're going to find inflated prices. So the key is to try to find a currency before it gets inflated, right? So in this case, we don't really see a ton of momentum, ton of movement on the social aspect, which is fine. I honestly think that's kind of a good thing right now. They also have a decent alt score rank of 236 out of 2092. And the main reason why is because their volume. They're trading a lot of volume right now. True, it's mostly selling off, but when we take a look at the technicals later, you'll see there's probably likely some pretty good, strong support levels that I think are starting to come into effect. So it may be a good time to buy. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. But that is essentially the social concept or aspect of Neo right now. So go ahead and move on. We'll go ahead and take a look at the coin market cap. I like to take a glance at this first, and then we can kind of look a little bit more in the fundamentals, because this does have a max supply of 100 million. It's pretty small in the big picture, and that's something they pride themselves with. So, something to be mindful of. There is currently a circulating supply of 71%. They're at approximately 71 million. The figures here are looking pretty good, honestly, to me, and it is ranked 21 based on its actual market cap value. Let's go ahead and take a look at Neo next, all right? Now, this is cool. The fundamentals here are pretty awesome. I took some notes, so I'll go ahead and read those out for you. But what you can do when you come here is you can kind of take a tour with all these things to kind of figure out specifically what they mean. I had some fun with this website earlier, but why don't we go ahead and take a look at that here. And just before we get into it, I do want to preface and let you know that they do have a smart economy system that does include like digital assets, which is a digital identity and smart contracts. So they're kind of a one-stop shop for smart contracts and digital assets. And Neo is great too because the assets can be easily digitized on the blockchain in an open, decentralized, trustworthy, traceable, and transparent manner. And it is free of intermediaries and other associated costs. So apparently it's going to be a pretty low cost option, and the users are able to record, buy, sell, and exchange and circulate various kinds of assets. We'll get into that here in just a sec. But bottom line here, they do have multi-language support. Obviously that's fundamental considering it is worldwide. Moving on, they have decentralized storage as well, which is interesting because it does encrypt. It basically takes your data, encrypts it, and it makes it always available. And you can always lease out your storage for gas, which is quite interesting too because gas does refer to a cost necessary to perform a transaction on the network, and you can essentially be able to earn gas by leasing your unused storage. I think that's a pretty cool concept. Now moving on, let's go ahead and take a look at, the native Oracle. And native Oracle is pretty awesome because it does allow developers to access data through secure hypertext transfer protocols, HTTPS. So it's very convenient for developers, which is nice. They also have self-sovereign identity. And what this does is basically just adds a layer of authentication, and you have customizable different options with that. They also have domain name service. And what this does is basically just offers or allows users to interact easily with decentralized services powered by NFTs. So non-fungible transactions, it's a pretty awesome concept, and they make it very, very easy with these decentralized services. All right, next up we're looking at advanced interoperability. Now this is a poly network that allows Neo to have other blockchains in their ecosystem. So as you can see here, they got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Zilliqa. There's a good handful of different ones here. And that kind of makes it a lot easier so you can kind of have the interoperability with other blockchains. But that is definitely something that's really cool. And check out this example too, it's kind of nice with their dual token model, of course, Neo and Gas. They tell you that you wouldn't use your Starbucks shares to buy a cup of coffee, so why spend your shares of the blockchain on transaction fees? So you're kind of just drawing a comparison there again because gas fees are essentially the cost to perform a transaction on the network. Now they have that option where you can essentially be able to get your own gas by actually providing your storage, right? So you can lease out your storage. So it's kind of a cool concept where you could essentially do that, just as a Neo holder. And Neo holders can also participate in governance and receive distributions of gas, again, tokens, and spend that on the blockchain. Okay, that's kind of a cool concept. And the last thing I want to show you too, because they do have really good tooling, was the N3. Here we go. All right, so N3, take a look at this here. They're going to launch a mainnet launch in Q3 of 2021. Now, mainnet launches are typically pretty important. They've been preparing for it for over almost 3 years now, over 2 years. So they started development June of 2018, 2019, so on and so forth. And here we are to Q3 in the upcoming near future, roughly the next 2 or 3 months. We're going to see a mainnet launch. So to me, whenever I've seen mainnet launches in other platforms, other currencies, they typically tend to spike up after that. Now, how long it lasts, it's hard to say. It's kind of that hype train thing where the social sentiment will probably increase as a result of this. So I would venture to guess that their social score will increase, just leading right into this moment. So be aware of that, be prepared for that. It might be helpful to try to get in before this happens so you can kind of take advantage of that pump. Just be sure to sell your profits and take some off the top, because if you don't, it could very well come back down depending on how Bitcoin is reacting. So that's pretty much everything there with Neo. Again, pretty awesome company. They got some really cool fundamental things going on here, but they are pretty cool features. I like them a lot. I think there's some really good potential here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the fundamentals next. correction, let's go ahead and take a look at the technical data next. Now with NEO, here's where they're at presently. So this is a 15-minute chart just for starters. And the price is right around 90, maybe just say $91 as a rough estimate. So $91 right now. And taking a look at the recent past, they spiked up recently. Again, this was on the 18th? So on Sunday, they hit its high of $134. What's interesting is that was right after Bitcoin had a major sell-off, right? So y'all probably remember that. Most of us do. And like it just ramped back up hard. So, that's interesting the way that it works. But to me, I think right now, with the way things are, we want to try to establish support levels. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at that? So looking at the support levels there, we got a major support down here, which is right around 76.44. Got a potential resistance line right here at 103. 103.52. All right. So taking a look here, why don't we go ahead and see what we're going here with. So first of all, let's take a look at some indicators. And again, 15-minute chart, you're just going to quickly glance at these things. You're not going to go into great detail unless you're planning to take entry, because you always want to work from a largest time frame to a smaller time frame. So, before we take an entry on the 15-minute chart, we want to look a little bit higher. So let's go ahead and do a bird's eye view first. So as you can see, the price hiked up pretty strong. Well, we hit a high of $53, and that was when? That was on the 22nd of February. And then it sold off, consolidation, and then ramped back up really hard right around the 26th. So for a full 3 weeks, the price jumped up pretty hard. And now we're in a sell-off stage. So it's pretty normal for the price to want to try to correct itself when the price gets so hit so fast over these amount of days. I mean, look at these. Wow, there's like 4 or 5 strong green days. Okay. So it's pretty awesome. I like to look at this because, first of all, the moving averages are working as support lines. Right? So if the price does continue to taper off, we can expect this 50-day moving average to be tested and to possibly stay above, just based on the previous support lines. Well, we'll go and take a look at the 4-hour chart next. Oh, really quick, hold on before we do that. Look at the momentum here first, because in the 1-day chart, the momentum is important to note. As you can see, the MACD is moving down and is possibly going to intersect on a downward fashion. Now again, there's no guarantees on the MACD, but when it does this, it does tell us that we are actually in bearish territory. So there is a chance for the price to continue to progress downward. Also, RSI is at a decent shape of right around 60, but it was obviously very, very high, up at 89 at its peak. Okay. So again, just something to note. There's not a lot of weight there. Personally, I feel like there's a lot more weight in the 4-hour charts. So why don't we take a look at this next? So look at the 4-hour chart. You can see the momentum as really, really low, right? So it tried to recover, tried to bounce back, but again, what just happened recently with Bitcoin today caused the price to come down again. Okay, so this is fairly reliant on Bitcoin doing well, but what's nice is the fact that it's also able to recover on its own quite quickly, because if you saw here with Bitcoin, when Bitcoin took its major crash on Saturday, it recovered no less than 24 hours later with a vengeance. So it jumped up significantly. I think that's almost, 25-30%. So that's pretty big. And then another thing to note too here, besides the RSI being kind of low, so this is a good potential entry point, is the fact that the moving averages are starting to get tested. Okay, so the 50-day moving average was tested today, and it rejected and continued to go past that. Now, this is likely, again, because of Bitcoin sell-off today. So if you're aware of what happened today, Bitcoin came down pretty hard. I think it lost almost 5 or 6,000, somewhere in the range of 8 or 9%, and that caused the price on most everything to drop. So there's a good chance this could still work as a support level, but I would wait another day to let it test first. Okay, so there's a potential that could work, and then obviously if it continues down, We'll see what happens with the 100-day moving average to see if it gets tested and bounces off as a potential support. So to me, based on what I see here so far, I still feel like we are in bearish territory. I would be cautious about taking entry, but obviously taking entry, you want to look at the 15-minute chart to identify the best potential entry point. And why don't we go ahead and do that now? So first thing to know, what do you guys see on the 15-minute chart? Some pretty obvious indicators here. The volume weighted average price is trading above. Same with both the moving averages. So when the price is below these points, we can assume that it's going to take a lot to test and jump above. Okay, so looking at these numbers here, to me, I would not want to take entry for a little while longer until the VWAP is tested. And then obviously once the 50-day moving average comes into play, perhaps in the next 3 to 4 hours, we could see if it gets tested. But right now there is a potential support line here right around $87 because it has been tested twice and bounced back. Even that big strong sell-off at Bitcoin, it didn't go much further than 87. Okay, so we could probably consider this as a potential support line too, which means it's kind of working itself into a channel, which is not a bad thing. I like channels because they have a tendency of breaking out. So this could very well break out, either up or down, of course. So if this support level is tested and breaks below and stays below for more than 30 minutes, then we can assume that it's going to become a resistance line. If it breaks above, just say the VWAP, once that comes back down a little bit lower, and the price raises up, and it stays above for, again, 30 minutes, that's 2 15-minute green bars, and then this could be a potential entry point. So what I would do as a day trader here is I'd wait for the VWAP to be tested. I would wait at least 30 minutes after it's been tested. And at that point, once it has been tested, I would just essentially wait for the price to be essentially tested, right? So we wait for the VWAP, wait for it to break above the VWAP and stay there for 30 minutes. Once it stays there for 30 minutes, we would add a small position. I would probably only go in 20-25%. I would then wait for confirmation for it to pass above both of these other moving averages. So the 100 and 50-day moving average, it would need to pass above that and do the same thing again. It would need to stay above for no less than 30 minutes. I would then take another position. I would probably add maybe another 30% to my total. And once I get in, I would stay in until I hit my goal. And me personally, a goal in this situation would be somewhere in the range of maybe just say about, I don't know, maybe about 1 or 2%. Okay, so somewhere in the range of, I would just say, if I get in right now, just say at 89, then I want to see the price come up to somewhere around 92, 93, 94. Now again, everyone has their own trading style, so of course use what you feel is most comfortable. But for me, taking small wins and adding small positions is the most effective. And if you're a continued subscriber, you'll know that about me. I'm very careful and meticulous about my entries, and I always wait for confirmation. So try to get in the habit of doing that. Whether or not you want to go for a larger percent or a smaller percent, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the important thing is to make sure to identify that there is confirmation that it's staying above a support or resistance line. And when we got 3 potential resistance lines coming up here, we want to make sure that we at least test and hold above for no less than 30 minutes on the VWAP for starters, and then move on to see how it tests the 50-day and 100-day moving average. If it pops up above and it stays above for, again, just 30 minutes or more, then you're going to be in a pretty good position to probably consider adding to your position. But just pay close attention as you get closer to your goal. Start taking a profit and sell 20-30% of the time. So that would be my recommendation here. Now, my projection for this currency, I feel like it's going to increase back up, especially with what they have going on later in the year in the quarter 3, right? Anytime that happens, it makes a big difference and people jump on the bandwagon. So why not get into the bandwagon earlier, right? We've got another few months before it gets there. Prices are as low as they can possibly get right now, for now. Because if you look at the Bitcoin, let's just take a quick look here. There's a pretty strong support level right at about 50,000, 51 I would say. So if you take the price and it stays above there, say it keeps testing and it keeps bouncing, if it stays above and it does break around the 50, 100-day moving average, and we have the price come back up with Bitcoin, then the price on everything else is going to increase, including NEO. So again, most of this is contingent on Bitcoin doing well and not deciding to sell off again as hard as it has recently. But if it stays above, I would just say this potential support line of around 51,000, it would be in good shape to start seeing some of these prices recover. So those are my thoughts. Why don't you please let me know your thoughts down below, and if you find benefit from this, of course, please consider subscribing. More importantly, join our Telegram community. Got some fantastic people in there that are really very helpful. I've seen a lot of great questions come through. Everyone's starting to collaborate and work together. So why don't you go ahead and join us there? It'd be fantastic to have you around. And obviously moving forward, let me know if there's any other currency you want me to go ahead and cover, because I just really love cryptocurrency and I think it's fun, it's exciting, and it's like the next best thing. It beats traditional stock market trading any day of the week. And you can do it, you can trade 24 hours, 7 days a week. So it's super awesome, super great. But either way, thank you so much for joining me and watching this far. If you had, of course, thank you very much. You are a survivor and a trooper. Appreciate you. And we'll go ahead and see you in the next video. You take care now. Thank you. Goodbye.